Starting any collection can be a real daunting task, especially if it's just a hobby. There's a lot of factors that you have to be aware of and decide on before starting a collection, because you can only start it once in your life. You want to do it right and not lose any money in the process. So here are some tips that I learned along my way to help you start your own home media collection. Now, of course, who am I to be one to be giving any sort of advice to? You were saying? In all seriousness, I've been collecting since I was a young boy. First, when I was only 5 years old with VHS tapes, it was random and spontaneous like any kid growing up. It wasn't until 2004 when I segued into DVDs. It took me a while to accept and start, since similar to how I was recently making the jump from DVDs to steelbooks. My parents would buy me a brand new DVD each and every week for years to get it to a fraction of the size it is now. After getting my own income and having complete control of my finances, I resumed at full speed and got it to where it is today. In the 18 years of collecting, I learned a lot. Some things I wish I learned then that may have helped me save the buck or two, or save my parents an arm and a leg. And by the way, shout out to my parents for fueling this addiction and never stopping me short. Now, the first thing I'll mention, and I won't consider it an official tip, but just a note, is to never eat food and touch your cases. You wouldn't believe the amount of grease marks and scents some of the early DVDs of mine had. It goes without saying, but there's tip 0 for you. Now, going in proper, the first tip should also answer the first question. What's the direction? What do you want your collection to encompass? In the case of home media, you have a lot to choose from. DVDs, Blu-rays, 4K Ultra HD, steelbooks, or heck, you can even be retro with VHS, Betamax, and so on. For me, it's about ownership and having it in my possession. Buying DVDs in 2020, when there's so many other avenues in owning movies and TVs in a way better quality, is a big question for someone like me to be asked. But I answer it again with this. I just want to own it, as well as it is the cheapest physical way to own it. Which leads me into my second tip. Budgeting. Budgeting is a whole nother thing that I can get into an entire video about alone. The main point is this. Look at your personal finances and see what petty cash you have left over and figure out what your limit is. By the way, petty cash for all of you non-finance people is basically any leftover cash you have at the end of paying off all your bills and rent and stuff that you have to pay off on time. Collecting is a lot of fun, but it is a draining hobby in money. And the priority is, in this life, is to live. For me, I can realistically buy every remaining piece I'm trying to get all of my collections right now. But I don't, because the fact is, there's more to life than possessions. Trust me, seeing cool displays and bigger collections makes me want it even more. But time and patience with your budget will eventually grant you the collection you always dreamed of. Now, once you find out what you want, you'll be surprised at how many editions there are of, well, everything you can think of in this space. VHS, do you go with slip-ons or plastic covers? DVDs, the regular edition or the collector's edition? Blu-ray, which retail exclusive? 4K Ultra HD, do you want to go for the steelbook or the regular edition? As well as which region, which cover. There's a lot out there to choose from, and one thing you especially want to learn being a latecomer is that you want to have a nice flow as well as exactly know what you want. Do you want the regular store line from the retail store, or do you want to mix and match with others from around the world, from other retailers, to make the display you want? I've always stuck to the basics, and in due time, it looked exactly how I wanted it to. Where to buy is another critical thing to think about. Thankfully nowadays there's physical and online shopping. But even picking where and how is a tricky thing, since if you're buying new copies, Target and Best Buy are the best places to start. Maybe a piece you're looking for isn't there anymore, but there's a lot of other smaller shops dedicated to older releases and some at reasonably good prices. Half of my current collection were at small shops and were cheap by my standards, so I was able to buy it in bulk. Online is also a good place, such as Amazon and eBay. But normally it would be best to physically examine the item in person, especially from eBay sellers, since sometimes they might miss something that you're looking for, but not them. At the end of the day, it depends on what you feel comfortable buying from, but always better to look in person. Next, and this is yet another crucial point, do you have the space for a growing collection? Where you live can be a factor too. I've heard stories of people having to stop or sell because they just don't have enough room in their current place to hold more stuff. As well as if you're living with people or your partner or even roommates, especially if it's being stored outside where you sleep, it's really important to get their blessing that they're okay with it being in their household. I'm thankful once again that my parents got a house, which provided me not only with just the space for my DVDs, but for my Funko Pop collection, my Lightning collection, and so on. But I'm aware not everyone has this luxury. And the last thing about the quantity is with most things, it's never truly over a collection in terms of how a company releases it. It's only when you decide that's it for now. Lastly, you can't have a collection if you can't properly display it. You gotta show it off, no matter what. It might cost more than a leg to find the right style. I went through many different versions of my wall until I got it to where it is today. Even on my other channel, ActionNet, you can see the visuals of my collection grow and change as the years progress. So the statement now is, what's the point of owning something if you can't properly display it? You also have to know what style you want. Is it gonna be front cover or spine front? Wood or plastic? Glass or no glass? There exists a ton of manufacturers that have shelves specifically made for DVDs and Blu-ray, such as Atlantic Beach, which is currently where my current shelves are made from. Custom-made ones are also a thing. I would recommend that only once you have a set place that you know for a fact you're going to live for more than 5 years. But that's just in my opinion. Well, that's it for now. I figured I'd just cover the basics, and hopefully any of my tips can help you start your own collection. But remember, at the end of the day, collecting is just a hobby, so as long as you treat it as one, you'll have nothing but smooth sailings from here on out. And as well as annoying your friends. Because, well, my friends are annoying with my collection, to be honest with you. But let me know in the comments below what tips you have for starting your own home media collection. I love to hear them. But until then, this is Joe from the Collection Compass. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.